Okay, good to go.
Hey everybody, Scott and Xiao here.
Hi.
We our first video together
No, it's
since.
second one. The first one was the.
Oh, that's right. We did do a video with TDB way back in the day. But yeah, been trying to get her to do a video with me for a while, and here she is. Just so everybody knows, Xiao works for Yunnan Sourcing, and she's responsible for many aspects of the business. Not only managing our fulfillment team, doing a lot of the sourcing, she's also has sourced a lot of the teas that we press under the Yunnan Sourcing label. And Xiao has been involved in Chinese tea, or Yunnan tea specifically, being a Yunnan native, for about 12-13 years now. So she has a lot of experience, and just so people understand that Yunnan Sourcing is more than just me. It's very much Xiao's company too. So anyways, that's just a little background, but I don't want to make you too embarrassed. But here we go. We're going to drink, what are we drinking? We're going to drink a Lao Ban Zhang Gushu ripe pu'er, and this was produced by our friend Hai Lang under his Hai Lang Hao label in 2017. It's pressed from 2016 harvested spring Lao Ban Zhang tea, about 200 kilos. He did a very small wet piling batch. 200 kilos seems like a lot for Lao Ban Zhang, and it is. He did a huge amount of, a huge expense and outlay to produce this tea. He's the only person I know that's really crazy enough to make, in my opinion, the only true Lao Ban Zhang ripe tea that I've ever had. There's a lot of teas that are called Lao Ban Zhang ripe, but in fact, thank you, I'm not very good at talking and brewing tea, so Xiao's gonna hopefully keep me from screwing this tea up. But yeah, Hai Lang had been saying for several years that he wanted to do this, and he did it. And, if you want to taste a true Lao Ban Zhang ripe pu'er, then this is the one. The price at this time is $760 for a 500 gram brick. So, but again, Lao Ban Zhang is not cheap. It's never going to be cheap. And a real one is going to be, that price, especially one that's, he does undertake some level of risk too, taking material and having it wet piled. There's always a chance that the wet piling process could go bad. So, however, he has had it done perfectly, and I think that I've had this tea before, and I know that it's a really amazing tea. But we want to drink it and talk about it a little bit, and talk about the only real Lao Ban Zhang ripe that I've ever had. There may be some others on the market somewhere, but like other Lao Ban Zhangs that are being sold in China, whether raw or ripe, 99% of them are fake. So, anyways, let's actually, I want to drink the wash. You want to drink the wash? We'll try it. Yeah. Surprisingly little wet pile taste for this, I think, being so new. It hasn't really opened up yet. We might get a little bit more wet piling taste. You can smell it a little bit there.
Still very new.
Yeah. But yeah, there's still a good little chunk in there. Not surprising considering we just did one wash on it, so. Given the price, I want to drink it all. I don't want to waste any of it.
I waste some.
But I think that goes back to a lot of, and I've been saying this more in I think some of my other videos as well. And I've been seeing this online some people say, oh, ripe pu'er that has a fishy taste is bad quality. And I think that's only true in the sense of, several years, if it's several years out and the tea has been, 3-4 years old and it still has a really, really strong fishy taste, then that could be an indicator of bad quality, or at least bad, wet piling technique. But new ripe pu'ers, 1, 2, 3 years old, are going to have at least some amount of, we call it wu dui wei or wu dui, which is a wet piling taste and smell.
Especially stored in Kunming, it's very dry.
Yes.
Definitely take like a few years to losing the wet pile smell and taste.
So the thing to keep in mind is if you do encounter kind of a fishy or a wet pile taste in a ripe tea, is to really look at the age. In the first couple of years, if you do experience that, that's totally normal. High quality teas have it, medium level quality teas have it, low quality teas have it. And most teas, if they were processed correctly, ripe pu'er, will lose that after a few years. So again, I just want to dispel the myth that teas that have any kind of fishy taste, regardless of their age, are bad. Being bad quality is totally wrong. So hopefully that will kind of spread the message, and people will start to understand that new teas have that. New ripe teas have that. Just like new raw teas have a very, kind of bitter, strong profile. So anyways, let's get to drinking the tea. What do you think?
Very strong.
Very strong?
Yeah.
Did I brew it too strong? I think I used 6.7 grams here.
You say it's good.
Yeah. Strong, but good strong, right?
Yeah, strong, powerful. It's very creamy.
Creamy, yeah. And it's just got a lot of body. It's very thick, full. There's a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of, it's almost like a chocolatey or like a cola kind of little bite. I don't know how to describe it. But yeah, it's very thick. And when you drink this tea, if you smack your lips and move your tongue, you can re-taste the tea again.
Yeah, and you can feel the bitterness in the mouth.
Is there any kind of shenjing, like mouth watering? Do you get that on the side of your tongue? I'm getting a little bit of kind of mouth watering. And this is just the first real brew. That was the first real brew. The first one was a wash, so this was going to probably be even stronger. I'll keep it really short. And I do recommend that when you brew this tea that you keep the steeping times really short, because you want to kind of gradually coax out the flavors in this tea. I mean, you can brew it stronger, but I mean, even then, like I really recommend in the early steeps just to do 15 seconds or so for the first 2 or 3 steeps. When you say 15 seconds, because you're going to be rewarded with something really thick, even with a short steeping time. If you go too long, you're just going to get something that's kind of overpowering, and you're not going to be able to get the subtlety of the tea, the more subtle aspects of the tea.
Yeah, that one's better.
A little more balanced. Why do you think? What did I do a shorter time?
No, it's good. I think the second one is more strong, and you can taste more.
The leaf
tea taste.
Yeah, and the leaves have opened up now. They're starting. This isn't a very tightly compressed. Like I feel like the compression on this brick is just perfect.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it just comes apart so easily, but it won't just crumble apart either. It looks tight and it feels tight, but when you brew it, it'll come apart fairly fast. So you're not just like, waiting for it to come apart, which is kind of nice, because I've encountered some of those older teas, and 5-6 steepings in, and it just never really comes apart. So compression is perfect. I'm not gonna waste it. Just really full, active in the mouth. I'm really excited to see how this tea is going to age. And I know that given the price, I probably wouldn't age more than 1 or 2 bricks just because the price is so expensive. But I mean, that's the thing is, if you're kind of looking for the ultimate ripe tea, and price is not really a factor, then this is definitely it. And I think total there are only 400 bricks made, and you know, Hai Lang is selling them too, and we're selling them, and so I don't know how long they're going to last. Maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe not even. Who knows? You know, so if anything else, you might want to pick up a sample and try it and just, you know, see for yourself. He also 2016 did a Lao Ban brick.
Yeah,
that's really good. That one's really good. Chujian, a 2017 brick, which is 5 different Ban Zhang area villages.
No, it's Jun'ai.
Oh, Jun'ai.
Yeah.
Jun'ai. Okay, sorry. Jun'ai, 2017, which is 5 Bulang villages, like Xin Ban Zhang, Lao Ban Zhang, and some other in that same area. I forget the names of the villages. That one is really amazing. We drank that one yesterday. And there's one more. Oh, the Yishanmo, which is a Yishanmo village tea that's been made into a ripe tea, which is amazing too. So this whole tradition of making ripe, like really premium ripe teas, has really taken off in the last few years.
Yeah.
Just people doing really high-end, like dashu, qiaomu, goshu kind of productions with ripe tea. What do you think? There's more sweetness.
Yeah, this one, this dip is the best. It's not much fishy taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, and that's the other thing worth mentioning too, is when you do drink a tea and it's a new ripe tea with a little bit of fishy taste, the wet pile taste, is that typically by the 3rd or 4th steeping, that tends to fade pretty much, and then you can kind of get a little bit of a handle on what the tea, you know, the future of the tea is going to be like. Of course, it's not going to be exactly like that, but at least you can taste it without the fishiness after a few steeps. So, but I mean, we are so used to tasting teas that are really, really new, raw and ripe. So we're, you know, I think we've also developed that skill to kind of get a sense of if the tea is good, even if it's got a really strong wet pile, like a brand new wet pile taste. Because when we get batches of ripe tea to test, we often don't have the luxury to wait months or years to decide whether or not we want to buy the tea. So we really have to be able to taste that.
Like very fast.
And know, like, you know, is it going to be good, even though it's got a really strong wet pile taste. So I think the other thing worth mentioning is that when we produce teas too, we don't, and Hai Lang is doing the same thing here. He's producing the tea, and he's not waiting and saying, oh, I'm going to wait 2 or 3 years and I'm going to sell it to you when it's at its best. We just Hai Lang, and we do, and I think a lot of other producers, we produce the tea, we press it, and then we sell it, and then it's kind of up to the customers to decide which teas they want and which teas they want to store. And you know, obviously when you buy them early, you get a better deal because the price goes up over time. You know, there's costs associated with storage, and every year the cost of tea has been going up basically. So
This one is very good.
Yeah, it's really stable, I think, and like this steeping compared to last steeping is basically the same. And that's one of the things about this tea and just high quality teas in general, the ripe teas that are made from like gushu or even just mature plantation tree bushes or naturally growing trees. They really have a very stable output. A lot of teas are kind of like they get really strong and then they drop off really fast, whereas this one's kind of has this long kind of plateau period where it's really stable and it just keeps going and it keeps doing its job and not losing much.
Yeah.
So that's another thing too, I think worth mentioning is that you kind of, maybe not with this tea because it's extremely expensive, but with better teas, you kind of get what you pay for because you actually are getting more out of the tea, right?
This steep is more sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, the bitterness has dropped a little bit. So this could be a really long video if we keep... Is there anything you want to add?
Just, you have to try if you want to know what the taste like of good ripe pu'er. You have to try yourself, right?
Yeah. And it's I think it's all about comparison too, because if people compare a bunch of different teas, even a beginner, if they compare a bunch of different ripes, I think people generally kind of will gravitate towards ones that are higher quality. I think it's interesting because I've encountered some customers now who actually like kind of newer ripe pu'ers and they don't mind a little bit of wet pile taste at all.
Yeah.
So it's all really, it's kind of just what you're used to. So I think it's good to get to know the teas when they're young and then decide, okay, I want to store these ones or I want to buy these ones. And then you can kind of identify them early on and
Yeah.
because teas like this will sell out pretty fast,
Yeah. He didn't make much and it's very high quality. Some people definitely will buy some for keep it for long term.
But do you think this is a tea that you can drink now?
Yeah. I used to drink new pu'er ripe, so I don't mind. In the market they don't have much old pu'er for you drink, so you have to start from new pu'er. Buy some stored in the house. You can't just always get the old pu'er from the market.
Right. Yep. And if you do, you're paying for it, and you're paying for something that maybe you don't always know, is it the real thing or how is it stored? That's always kind of a problem. And that's, I think, why we're so picky about which aged teas that we sell. I don't want to sell a tea just because it's aged. I want it to be good too. And I want it to be fairly priced too. Yeah. That's the hardest thing, is finding teas that are aged, clean, and also that are actually affordable too. So, that's one of the reasons why we create so many new teas, is because you can't have aged teas without having young teas.
Yeah.
You got to be a kid. You got to be a kid and go through your childhood before you get to be an adult. That's just part of the deal. And tea is the same way. There's no shortcut.
Yeah.
There's, people try to make shortcuts. I guess ripe tea is kind of an attempt at creating a shortcut, right?
Yeah.
The whole idea of ripe tea is, engineering something to be like aged tea, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. Totally different.
Yeah, creamy, sweet. There's a little bit of like almost, I don't know, kind of like a roasted like bean. A little bit. I don't know. It feels like it just kind of sits on my tongue, kind of like I just ate something.
Yeah, it's because
it's very pungent and
it's very rich.
Yeah. Do you want this?
You go ahead.
Thanks. 你太大方了。
大方吗？
Xiao and I speak a lot of kind of mixed English and Chinese back and forth, sometimes in English, sometimes in Chinese, sometimes Chinese and English in the same sentence, which I guess you could call Chinglish. And especially when we talk about tea, I think that it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for us to speak in English about tea because of our experiences in Yunnan and just, you know, yeah.
Also, your Chinese is much better than my English.
Oh, come on
so.
now. Your English is really good now.
Really?
Yeah.
Not really. I try.
My Chinese is pretty good.
I know.
That's one of my, yeah, it's, that's definitely helpful. In China's one of those places where it's kind of like they're really, unless you're in one of the big cities, there just really aren't English speaking, so, you know, ways to do things. Like if you go to, you know, Mexico or you go to Europe or whatever, you can get by with English usually. But in China, you can't not in Yunnan or even in Kunming, you can't get by with English at all. Like it's just pretty much useless. People, if you try to speak English to people, they'll just be like, oh, you know. And maybe some young people or middle-aged people will speak a little bit, but you can't really have a life there without learning Chinese. So, you know, and I always say to people, oh, I want to learn about tea. I want to learn Chinese. I want to be fluent in Chinese. I want to learn tea. And I just say, you know, if you want to do that, move to China and don't live in one of those big cities like Shanghai or Beijing or Guangzhou, where you might be able to surround yourself by aspiring English students who want to learn from you. You really have to kind of separate yourself from either teaching English. Teaching English is not a good way to learn Chinese. It's a good way to support yourself in China, but it's not a good way to learn Chinese because you're expected to speak English basically all the time, both on and off the job. So, yeah, you really have to just kind of try to get away from it and surround yourself with people, locals. For me, I was able to learn Chinese in the tea market, just hanging out in tea houses and drinking tea.
Nobody's speaking English there.
Nobody.
And people from Yunnan, they don't speaking very good 普通话.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah,
so
Mandarin.
You learned some Mapu.
Yeah, I learned a lot of dialect as well there because a lot of people don't really speak on, you know, they can't, a lot of people can speak Mandarin, but a lot of them don't speak Mandarin. So just constantly being surrounded by people who are speaking in whether Kunming dialect or Yunnan dialect or Fujian people speaking Mandarin or whatever, you know, so.
Do you remember some people used to say, Scott, your Chinese is, your 普通话 is better than mine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. Maybe
because they don't speak in Mandarin.
Yeah. And now it's a little bit more woody, kind of like a wood camphor, but really sweet.
Yeah.
There's still a little bit of bitterness hanging in there.
I think will take a while.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be able to finish this tea during this video. Well, I mean, what did you think? Last thoughts. Do you think this tea is worth the price?
Of course.
Why?
Why? Because the quality and you know, you can't find much high quality rep tea in the market.
Not like this.
Yeah.
No. I mean, it's definitely up there. You know, with any kind of tea, once you get up into the high end stuff, you get this kind of like exponentially diminishing returns in terms of quality versus price. But that's just to be expected and unavoidable. I think if you want to drink tea, like legitimately drink tea from Lao Ban Zhang or legitimately drink Lao Ban Zhang ripe tea, then this is a great choice. So yeah, I think it's definitely at least worth picking up a little sample of if you really think that you want to try it. If you're afraid that you're going to like it too much and want to get a whole brick, then maybe you shouldn't. but that would be the only reason that you shouldn't at least try it.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah. Let us know how you liked our video, and really glad to have Xiao here. Thanks for joining us. Finally, I've been bothering you to join us for a long time.
I don't know. My English not very good, so I'm kind of shy to in the video. But I will try my best. I will do my best. Yeah, sharing some information with you guys. Thank you for support us, and thank you for like us.
All right. Thanks. We'll have another video soon. Keep watching.
Thank you.